Then Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, sang on that day, saying, Because the leaders took the lead in Israel, because the people offered themselves willingly, be blessed, Yahweh. Hear, you kings, give ear, you princes. I, even I, will sing to Yahweh. I will sing praise to Yahweh, the God of Israel. Yahweh, when you went out of Seir, when you marched in the field of Edom, the earth trembled, the sky also dropped. Yes, the clouds dropped water, the mountains quaked at Yahweh's presence, even Sinai at the presence of Yahweh, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were occupied, the travellers walked through byways. The rulers ceased in Israel. They ceased until I, Deborah, arose, until I arose a mother in Israel. They chose new gods. The war was in the gates. Was there a shield or spear seen among 40,000 in Israel? My heart is toward the governors of Israel, who offered themselves willingly among the people. Bless Yahweh. Speak, you who ride on white horses, and you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk by the way. Far from the noise of archers in the place of drawing water, there they will rehearse Yahweh's righteous acts, the righteous acts of his rule in Israel. Then Yahweh's people went down to the gates. Awake, awake, Deborah! Awake, awake, utter a song. Arise, Barak, and lead away your captives, you son of Abinoam. Then a remnant of the nobles and the people came down. Yahweh came down for me against the mighty. Those whose root is Amalek came out of Ephraim. After you, Benjamin, among all your people. Governors who came out of Machir, those who handle the martial staff came out of Zebulun. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah, as was Issachar, so was Barak. They rushed into the valley at his feet, by the watercourses of Reuben. There were great resolves of heart. Why did you sit among the sheepfolds to hear the whistling for the flocks? At the watercourses of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Gilead lived beyond the Jordan. Why did Dan remain in ships? Asher sat still at the haven of the sea, and lived by his creeks. Zebulun was a people that jeopardized their lives to the death. Naphtali also on the high places of the field. The kings came and fought. Then the kings of Canaan fought at Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. They took no plunder of silver. From the stars of the sky fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The river Kishon swept them away. That ancient river, the river Kishon. My soul march on with strength. Then the horse hooves stamped because of the prancing of their strong ones. Curse Meroz, said Yahweh's angel. Curse it bitterly, its inhabitants, because they didn't come to help Yahweh against the mighty. Jael shall be blessed above women, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Blessed she shall be above women in the tent. He asked for water, she gave him milk. She brought him butter in a lordly dish. She put her hand to the tent peg, and her right hand to the workman's hammer. With the hammer she struck Sisera. She struck him through his head. Yes, she pierced and struck through his temples. At her feet he bowed, he fell, he lay. At her feet he bowed, he fell. Where he bowed, there he fell down, dead. Through the windows she looked out and cried, Sisera's mother looking through the lattice. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why do the wheels of his chariot wait? Her wise ladies answered her. Yes, she returned answer to herself. Have they not found? Have they not divided the plunder? A lady, 2 ladies to every man. To Sisera, a plunder of dyed garments, a plunder of dyed garments embroidered, on both sides, on the neck of the plunder. So let your enemies perish, Yahweh, but let those who love him be as the sun when it rises in its strength. Then the land had rest 40 years. The children of Israel did that which was evil in Yahweh's sight. So Yahweh delivered them into the hand of the Midian 7 years. The hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of Midian, the children of Israel made themselves in the dens which are in the mountains, the caves and the strongholds. So it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the children of the east came up against them. They encamped against them and destroyed the increase in the earth until you came to Gaza. They left no sustenance in Israel, and no sheep, ox, or donkey. For they came up with their livestock in their tents. They came up in as locusts for multitude. Both they and their camels were without number, and they came into the land to destroy it. Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the children of Israel cried to Yahweh. When the children of Israel cried to Yahweh because of Midian, Yahweh sent a prophet to the children of Israel, and he said to them, Yahweh the God of Israel says, I brought you up from the Egypt, and brought you out of the house of bondage. I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out from before you, and gave you their land. I said to you, I am Yahweh your God. You shall not fear the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But you have not listened to my voice. Yahweh's angel came and sat under the oak which was in Ophrah, that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite. His son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. Yahweh's angel appeared to him and said, Yahweh is with you, man of valor. Gideon said to him, O my Lord, if Yahweh is with us, why then has all this happened to us? Where are all his wondrous works which our father told us of, saying, Didn't Yahweh bring us up from Egypt? But now Yahweh has cast us off and delivered us into the hand of Midian. Yahweh looked at him and said, Go in this, your might, and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Haven't I sent you? He said, O Lord, how shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is the poorest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. Yahweh said to him, Surely I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man. He said to him, If now I have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who talk with me. Please don't go away until I come to you and bring out my present and lay it before you. He said, I will wait until you come back. Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened cakes of an ephah of a meal. He put the meat in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and put it out to him under the oak, and presented it. The angel of God said to him, Take the meat and the unleavened cakes, and lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. He did so. Then Yahweh's angel stretched out the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the meat and the unleavened cakes, and fire went up out of the rock, and consumed the meat and the unleavened cakes. Then Yahweh's angel departed out of his sight. Gideon saw that he was Yahweh's angel, And Gideon said, Alas, Lord Yahweh, because I have seen Yahweh's angel face to face. Yahweh said to him, Peace be to you. Don't be afraid. You shall not die. Then Gideon built an altar there to Yahweh and called it, Yahweh is Peace. To this day, it is still in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. That same night Yahweh said to him, Take your father's bull, even the second bull, 7 years old, and throw it down the altar of Baal that is your father's, and cut down the Asherah that is by it. Then build an altar to Yahweh your God on top of the stronghold, in an orderly way, and take the second bull, and offer a burnt offering with the wood of Asherah, which you shall cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, did as Yahweh had spoken to him, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city. He could not do it by day, but he did it by night. When the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was broken down, and the Asherah was cut down that was by it, and the second bull was offered on the altar that was built. They said to one another, Who has done this? When they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon the son of Joash has done this thing. Then the men of the city said to Joash, Bring out your son, that he may die, because he has broken down the altar of Baal, and because he has cut down the Asherah that was by it. Joash said to all who stood against him, Will you contend for Baal, or will you save him? He who will contend for him, let him be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself, because someone has broken down his altar. Therefore on that day he named him Jerub-Baal, saying, Let Baal contend against him, because he has broken down his altar. Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east assembled themselves together, and they passed over and encamped in the valley of Jezreel. But Yahweh's Spirit came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Ebiezer was gathered together to follow him. He sent his messengers through all Manasseh, and they also were gathered together to follow him. He sent messengers to Asher and to Zebulun and to Naphtali, and they came up to meet him. Gideon said to God, If you will save Israel by my hand, as you have spoken, behold, I will put a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew on the fleece only, and it is dry on all the ground, then I'll know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have spoken. It was so, for he rose up early the next morning and pressed the fleece together and wrung out the dew of the fleece, a bowl full of water. Gideon said to God, Don't let your anger be kindled against me, and I will speak but this once. Please let me make a trial just this once with the fleece. Now let it be dry only on the fleece, and on the ground let there be dew. God did so that night, for it was dry on the fleece only, and there was dew on the ground. Then Jerubbaal, who is Gideon, and all the people who were with him, rose up early and encamped beside the spring of Harod. Midian's camp was on the north side of them, by the hill of Moreh in the valley. Yahweh said to Gideon, The people who are with you are too many for me to give the Midians into their hand, lest Israel brag against me, saying, My own hand has saved me. Now therefore proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, Whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return and depart from Mount Gilead. So 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. Yahweh said to Gideon, There are still too many people. Bring them down to the water, and I will test them for you. It shall be that those whom I tell you, this shall go with you, shall go with you. And whoever I tell you, this shall not go with you, shall not go. So he brought down the people to the water, and Yahweh said to Gideon, Everyone who laps of the water with his tongue like a dog laps, you shall set by himself. Likewise everyone who bows down on his knees to drink. The number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men, but the rest of the people bowed down on their knees to drink water. Yahweh said to Gideon, I will save you by the 300 men who lapped, and deliver the Midianites into your hand. Let all the other people go, each to his own place. So the people took food in their hand, and their trumpets, and he set all the rest of the men of Israel to their own tents, but retained the 300 men, and the camp of Midian was beneath them in the valley. That same night Yahweh said to him, Arise, go down into the camp, for I have delivered it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down, go with Purah your servant down to the camp. You will hear what they say, and afterward your hand will be strengthened to go down into the camp. Then went he down with Purah his servant to the outmost part of the armed men who were in the camp. Then all the children of the east lay along the valley like locusts for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand is of the seashore for multitude. When Gideon had come, behold, there was a man telling a dream to his fellow. He said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and behold, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, came to the tent, and struck it so that it fell, and turned upside down so that it lay the tent flat. His fellow answered, This is nothing other than the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. God has delivered Midian into his hand with all the army. It was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation, that he worshipped. Then he returned into the camp of Israel and said, Arise, for Yahweh has delivered the army of Midian into your hand. He divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put into the hands of all of them trumpets and empty pitchers with torches and with the pitchers. He said to them, Watch me and do likewise. Behold, when I come to the outmost part of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so you shall do. When I blow the trumpet, I and all who are with me, then blow the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and shout, For Yahweh and for Gideon. So Gideon and the 300 men who were with him came to the outmost part of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, when they had but newly set the watch. Then they blew the trumpets and broke in pieces the pitchers that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew the trumpets, broke the pitchers, and held the torches in their left hand and the trumpets in their right hand with which to blow. And they shouted, The sword of Yahweh and of Gideon! They each stood in his place around the camp. And all the army ran, and they shouted and put them to flight. They blew the 300 trumpets, and Yahweh sent every man's sword against his fellow and against all the army. And the army fled as far as Beth-shittah, towards Zererah, as far as the border of Abel-meholah by Tabbath. The men of Israel were gathered together out of Naphtali, out of Asher, and out of all Manasseh, and pursued Midian. Gideon sent messengers through all the country, the hill country of Ephraim, saying, Come down against Midian, and take the waters before them as far as Beth-berah, even the Jordan. So all the men of Ephraim were gathered together, and took the waters as far as Beth-berah, even the Jordan. They took the 2 princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb. They killed Oreb at Oreb's rock, and Zeb they killed at Zeb's winepress, as they pursued Midian. Then they brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon beyond the Jordan. The men of Ephraim said to him, "Why have you treated us this way, that you didn't call us when you went to fight with Midian?" They rebuked him sharply. He said to them, "What I have done now in comparison with you, isn't the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Ebiezer? God has delivered into your hand the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb. What was I able to do in comparison with you?" Then their anger was abated towards him when he had said that. Gideon came to the Jordan and passed over, he and 300 men who were with him, faint yet pursuing. He said to the men of Succoth, "Please give us loaves of bread to the people who follow me, for they are faint, and I am pursuing after Zerah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." The princes of Succoth said, "Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give you bread to your army?" Gideon said, "Therefore, when Yahweh has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars." He went up there to Penuel and spoke to them in the same way, and the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered. He spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, "When I come again in peace, I will break down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their armies with them, about 15,000 men, all of whom were left in the army of the children of the east, for there fell 120,000 men who drew the sword. Gideon went up by the way of those who live in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and struck the army, for the army felt secure. Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them. He took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and confused all the army. Gideon the son of Joash returned from the battle from the ascent of Heres. He caught a young man of the men of Succoth, and inquired of him, and he described him for a prince of Succoth, and its elders, 77 men. He came to the men of Succoth and said, "See, Zebah and Zalmunna, concerning whom you taunted me, saying, 'Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your men who are weary?' He took the elders of the city, and thorns in the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. He broke down the tower of Penuel, and killed the men of the city. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, 'What kind of men were they whom you killed at Tabor?' They answered, 'They were like you. They resembled the children of a king.' He said, 'They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As Yahweh lived, if you had saved them alive, I would kill you.' He said to Jether, his firstborn, 'Get up and kill them.' But the youth didn't draw his sword, because he was afraid, because he was yet a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, 'You rise and fall on us, for as the man is, so is his strength.' Gideon arose and killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and took the crescents that were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, 'Rule over us, both you, your son, and your son's son also, for you have saved us out of the hand of Midian.' Gideon said to them, 'I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. Yahweh shall rule over you.' Gideon said to them, 'I do have a request, that you would give me the earrings of his plunder,' for they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. They answered, 'We will willingly give them.' They spread a garment, and every man threw the earrings of his plunder into it. The weight of the gold earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold. In addition to the crescents and the pendants and the purple clothing that was on the kings of Midian, and in addition to the chains that were about their camels' necks, Gideon made an ephod out of it and put it in Ophrah, his city. Then All Israel played the prostitute with it there, and it became a snare to the Gideon and to his house. So Midian was subdued before the children of Israel, and they lifted up their heads no more. The land had rest for 40 years in the days of Gideon. Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went out and lived in his own house. Gideon had 70 sons, conceived from his body, for he had many wives. His concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Abimelech. Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. As soon as Gideon was dead, the children of Israel turned again, and played the prostitute, following the Baals, and made Baal-berith their god. The children of Israel didn't remember Yahweh their God, who had delivered them out of the hand of their enemies on every side. Neither did they show kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had shown to Israel.